Catching me up.
Are you the fanatic we're looking for? Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, brought to you by the Draft Professor. The Draft Professor is the only interactive and dynamic mock draft simulator. Dynamic means that the picks from one mock draft will influence the players that team selects in the next mock draft. This can be done with a first-round challenge. This can be done with a second-round challenge. This will be done with any mock draft from the Draft Professor. In addition, the Draft Professor has rank players functionality, allowing you to rank players and build your own big board and then compare your board to that of other users at the Draft Professor. In addition, the Draft Professor has draft a team functionality. This allows 2 or more users to snake draft a team of 22 players from the rookie pool, and then you can debate which players you like at which position and why. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. This episode will begin shortly. Well, welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. We are live. I am joined by Noah and Cole. Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing pretty good. Cole, how are you?
I'm good. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go.
Cool. So, Noah, this is, I think, your second podcast with us, right?
Yep.
So, welcome back. It's good
Thank
to kind of get in the groove of doing this.
Mhm.
Much appreciated. And Cole, I've already lost count. It's probably podcast 5 or so. So
5+ for sure.
So we are going to be covering some defensive backs in the Hula and Shrine Bowl. And I think our disclaimer is we're covering DBs that Noah and Cole liked, as opposed to all of the DBs, because that list was just too long to do in an hour. So we have, let me pull that up. So the first DB that we're going to cover is Robert Longerbeam from Rutgers. So which one of you had Robert Longerbeam?
It was Noah, I think.
That's me.
Yep.
Yeah, so Robert Longerbeam from Rutgers, he is a physical press man corner with adequate length, strike timing, and placement to jar receivers off the line of scrimmage. And he's also got some inside-outside versatility to add to that as well. And that makes him a player that I'm actually pretty excited for to see at Shrine this year. I personally do think he should make the switch to slot at the next level because he struggles pretty mightily against these bigger-bodied pass catchers that just kind of box him out at the catch point. And it makes sense because he's only like 178 pounds. But I do think that he has the quick feet to mirror and match faster and more like nuanced receivers. And he has like the rapid change of direction skills that allow him to stay in phase with these quicker pass catchers, even if he's not getting hands-on off the line of scrimmage, which is why I think he'll translate well to the slot. Like, I really do like the press man corner. Like, I really do like him as a press man corner with his consistent technique, but his size is too worrisome for me on the outside. And it's already shown issues with it at the college level on numerous reps. So I don't know how it would be at the NFL level. But besides where he's going to play, he needs to shore up his technique and man guarding receivers throughout the route. He constantly has a bad tendency to drift off in man coverage and surrender that tight cushion that he secured off the line of scrimmage in both press and off man coverage. And again, he gets out muscled at the catch point quite a lot, and more accurate and violent hands with some added play strength would definitely do him good at the next level. And in zone, I mean, this isn't a guy you're drafting for his zone instincts. He has like adequate play and drive and underneath routes, but he doesn't really have a quick processor and not really apparent instincts, nothing really to mention. I currently have a 5th round grade on him right now, but I think he could rise to a 4th if he has like a really good showing in the Shrine Bowl.
Cool. Okay, Cole. Got a quick finger there. Sorry about that. Alijah Clark from Syracuse.
Man, this is a long corner, 6'2". He has a really, really nice wingspan. You see it on tape a lot. He has really good ball production on the PBU side of things. He's a guy that I want to see him add some more weight, and I kind of question necessarily the long speed athleticism, which is it's a common thing in this corner class specifically. You're not going to get it's not a bunch of long speed athletes, but his short area quickness is really nice. His back pedal, his smooth hips, his transitions in and out of back pedal into breaks. If he's running a deep third or even a deep quarter, you're not gonna have any problems with him. I do really, really like his physicality. He has really nice hands, and while sometimes he just does get out muscled while in press, this is a guy that you can definitely trust to maintain that role. I think his upside is a nice cornerback too, and while it's not really a comp, kind of like imagine what like Mike Jackson does for the Carolina Panthers, kind of that physical, can press, can play zone, he's going to break on the ball. He has length as well, but this isn't necessarily a guy you're going to draft top 50 or top 75, but I do like him a good bit where I could totally see him going into that like Kalen Carson or I forget the Iowa State corner from last year, for like that kind of like hype train building up after his bowl game. Just see him kind of come in there and build up some of that hype. Like I'm really blanking on the Iowa State corner from last year. If anybody,
I'm trying to think of his name.
Help me out. I forget.
I'll Google it. I'll Google it while we move on to the next one.
Yeah. But kind of like that, like Kalen Carson-y type, like hype train, where he just builds off of a great bowl performance, which I know he'll do because he has really nice mirroring techniques. I have a 4th-round grade on Alijah Clark, and I'm really excited to see what he can go out and do. I hope they do give him some more press man opportunities, because I do want to see how well he can kind of hold up and see if he can stack some better reps in press man, because I know he has the potential to do it, but I just question kind of at 180 how well he's going to be able to do that at the next level.
Yeah, he's got that thin frame.
Yeah, very.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'm right in line with you, though. I got the same grade on him.
Yeah, I really like him. I know.
He's a good player.
Well.
So Cole, you have a day 3 grade on him, right?
Yeah, but like I could totally see him reach into that like top 100, like compensatory, like 3rd round, like top like 99 to like 100. So I could totally see that from him with a good bowl performance.
Yeah. And for people new to the channel, we try to cover the top 175. So you're going to see a lot of other draft podcasts. They'll go top 75, top 100. We go top 175, which we think is 5th round or better. So there's a reason that we can focus on the Hula and Shrine Bowl, because we think that there's going to be some day 3 defensive backs. And one of those guys is also Corey Thornton from Louisville. So Noah, do you want to tell us about him?
Yeah, so Corey Thornton's a player that I honestly really liked. He boasts that really long-limbed frame with plus length that makes him a really effective press man corner. And he's got that real like physical demeanor to jam receivers off the line and set the tone for the rest of the game. He's also got really quick feet, good start-stop ability that allows him to secure routine positioning to make plays on the ball. And he's got really violent hands to play through the receiver's hands at catch point. At the catch point, I just really like the physical play style that he has. But he's also capable of staying in phase down the sideline. He's got really fluid hips to open and turn and run effectively. He's really like easy at winding receivers to the sideline, using it as his best friend, narrowing those throwing windows. And while Thornton is primarily going to be picked for his press man technique, he's not a slouch really in zone. He's definitely more of a reactionary player than an instinctual one, but I think he has really good reactionary athleticism and can click and close on routes pretty effectively in zone. So you're not picking him for it, but I don't think he's bad in it either. He's not a liability. But I think Thornton's biggest issues come just in his transitions. They're just majorly inconsistent and show a lack of fluidity on a handful of reps. He's just not really a special athlete, and it shows when he's redirecting to stay in phase with in and out of receivers' breaks. And to add on, again, his play strength is kind of middling, and it's apparent at the catch point where he's routinely out-muscled by bigger receivers. So he has good hands, he has good violence to play through him, but just kind of gets out-muscled because he's a little thinner, a little more just slim frame. I currently have a 5th to a 6 on him right now, but if he shows more consistency at the Shrine Bowl and just his ability to stay latched into the hip pocket of receivers, I could see him rising, certainly, because he's like that physical press man player that everyone falls in love with later in the draft.
Yeah, so Cole, I think the defensive back you were talking about was
TJ Tampa. Yep.
Yes, good.
That's honestly like an exact comp, to be honest with you, for Clark.
Okay, so this is a player I think the channel has covered a few times before. Xavier Nwankpa from Iowa. So Cole.
Yeah, so you see that huge safety frame. This is like a strong. He's more of a free safety, but he's got that strong safety size. So like if you can get him to kind of hunker down on that tackling technique and kind of be a little bit more physical and more of a thumper, definitely can see him switching that like big nickel, like bring him down in a 3-3, bring him over on like an overhang and guard a slot guy and lay the boom in the run game. If you develop him in the weight room a little bit, because he while he is 215, I do question that measurement. I don't have verifieds on him, unfortunately. But you look at that picture, and I don't necessarily see a true 215, which is okay because he's long, he's 6'2", so he can always play that free safety role. You have him in like a little rat or a robber, just have him play over the middle of the field. This is a guy that got like top 50 hype, even first round hype, like safety 1 to 2, like capabilities, and the ceiling's there, but he didn't really put it together in at Iowa this year, which was a little unfortunate. But he comes in. I think he's at the Shrine. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, he's Shrine. No, he's Hula. He's Hula.
He is. I kind of forgot. So he's going to go into the Hula. This is a guy that I can totally end up seeing, like, just getting a Shrine invite after the games, because there's no way that a guy of this athletic capability doesn't go out and show out in the Hula Bowl. You see it a lot, especially with the DBs, that they get moved up. And Nwankpa, just his zone instincts are nice. I really question his man abilities, which is weird because he's super athletic, but you're not this is not a guy you want to man up ever. Like, you do not want to play zero with him. He's stiff in the hips a little bit, which is concerning. But overall, this is a guy I have a 3rd to 4th on, and I really like the potential that Nwankpa has. And he was super fun to watch at Iowa in 2023. And you see that athletic score, and he's going to be an RAS demon for sure. He'll rise because of his athletic capabilities. But I do just worry about the coverage instincts and the hips. His technique overall is not the cleanest, and I wish it did get cleaned up, considering he was in a room with Sebastian Castro, who I am and was high on, who's a technician, and Nwankpa's just not necessarily that yet. But I do believe he's only a true junior, and he is young. He might be a senior, but he is a younger player. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Overall, I just want to see him clean up some technique, and he can develop into a great steal for a team, no doubt.
Okay. Noah, Craig Woodson from Cal.
Yeah, so Craig Woodson is one of those players where I was watching him and I immediately thought back to what Cole was explaining last week with Chris Paul, the linebacker from Ole Miss, that while he may not be one of the best, he may not be like the best athlete on the field, he's probably one of, if not the smartest players on the field at any given point in time. He is routinely in the right place at the right time. He's got a really high zone IQ and serviceable athleticism to be the strong safety on a defense. He's capable of rolling down in the box for run support, playing man on tight ends and running backs, and even dropping back deep as that last line of defense on a defense. And he's pretty proficient in every single role he plays. And as a run defender, Woodson, he does really well to work downhill. He inserts himself well into gaps. He adequately fills running lanes and completes his run fits. And he's a very consistent tackler with really good tackling technique to ensure stops on a play-to-play basis. But as a coverage player, I think Woodson will have to answer some questions pertaining to his issues with his overall range and athletic ability that just leak into his transitions and make him kind of a clunky mover at times. It leaves him kind of a step behind a player, but his processing of route concepts and just display of consistent high IQ play makes me confident that his mental makeup can compensate for a lot of his athletic limitations at the next level. I currently have a 4th to a 5th on him, but with a good showing at the Shrine, I'm confident it will turn into a true 4th. And I think this will be a player that people really will fall in love with just outside of that top 100 range, just because he is a limited athlete, but he's extremely smart.
Cool. And how high do you have him on your board, Noah?
I have him right now to a 4th to a 5th because I'm just not super high in the athlete, but I think he'll be a true 4th after Shrine.
Cool. And then question, do you like Thornton or Quincy Riley better?
I like
and
Riley.
Cole, you can answer that too.
I personally love Quincy Riley a lot.
Yeah, I liked Riley better.
But I will say that Louisville DB core is fucking sick.
It's just good. It's good everywhere, literally.
Their safety room was they had a sleeper at safety. I was watching Thor Griffith, and I think it was number 12. I forget his name. Just ripped the ball out. He was an interesting guy I put on my list after that. So that DB core is just sick all around.
Yeah, I found Corey Thornton in that Miami game where like he spins around like in his he's bailing in zone and he spins around on Cam
Oh,
Ward and almost picks
that
that
play
off.
was sweet.
The
I know
ball just
exactly what you're
drops off his chest and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, so compare and contrast Riley to Thornton.
Thornton is a really good man coverage defender. He is a nuisance in press, an absolute pest.
And then Quincy Riley.
I haven't watched Riley fully. I only watched a game on Riley, so I don't want to speak too much on him. But I liked Riley more than what I saw from Thornton athletically wise.
Yeah, it's just completely different athletes. But Riley's smaller. Like I think he's listed at 6 foot. He's not 6 foot. No way. No shot in hell. But he's also a little pest. But I don't like him in press. I like him more an off man and then like. Put him in a cloud corner role, and oh my god, that motherfucker's gonna cook every single week. You let him sit in a soft squat or a cloud flat, he is going to be a nuisance for anybody on offense. Man. But Thornton's that guy that you put on like you just let him sit and press man. You like run maybe like I don't know, like cover 6 or cover 9, you put him in a press quarter, just let him run rabid and
he's an annoying press defender. Watching him, I can't even imagine being a receiver. He is one of those players that just demoralizes you if you cannot beat him in press.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but he's one of those players too, like Dean was saying last week, though, where like his highs are high, but he also has some really bad lows. Where like his transitions, there's sometimes, I don't know, I saw him on tape sometimes where he looked very clunky. Where I was watching him yesterday and I was like, oof. But yeah. I didn't think it was that like too worrisome.
Yeah, I was about to say that he is just like George Pickens.
He is.
I don't have any accounts of him being like a huge trash talker like Kobe Bryant is. But like if you mix those two together, you put like Kobe Bryant's like mental IQ and like trash talking on Thornton, that motherfucker is going to piss so many people off.
Yep. And anybody else listening, Ryan Sparks has been on our podcast. I think he was on last Friday. So give Ryan a follow. And then Path to the Jags, I believe that's Mike, and Mike podcasts with us. Oh, and I have to remember what day Mike is on. But I want to say that that's Tuesday. So anyways, give those guys a follow, and we will move on to the next player, Zy Alexander from LSU. And I lost track of who picked who.
I think I picked Zy and Noah got Major Burns. So
okay. I actually liked Major Burns, man. I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, he's coming up next now.
Yeah, I didn't think he was bad.
Yeah, so Zy Alexander, man. This is a guy that was getting like second round hype like midway through the season. And I totally do see it, but this is a zone corner, and in a league where you don't know where you're going to be going, you're not a free agent, you can't pick a team that's going to adapt to your skill set. And it's not like he's not going to be a first round pick where you have maybe a new coordinator coming in who's going to adapt and pick a guy based on their scheme. It's going to be a later guy who's kind of in there because you like what he can offer eventually. And I don't think Zy Alexander is raw by any means. This guy is a pure zone corner. You put him in Los Angeles. Like if you miss out on Will Johnson, you have no reason to not take Zy Alexander in like the top 75. His zone instincts are fantastic, and he's not the best long speed athlete. There's a lot of guys, I've already mentioned it, not great long speed athletes at this position, and that's okay. Because what you're going to get with him is a guy that knows how to get hands on. If he does press, you have a guy that has smooth hips and can bail easily into zones. He can switch coverages. You have a guy on a crosser, you have a guy on a streak, he'll jump to the crosser, erase him from the play. Super smart player, super long, 6'2", 194. I have him about 192 and like 6'1", like probably like 6'8", so not too far off of what he actually is. But super long. He had really nice ball production this year. It was almost like a little bit of a breakout, kind of with a lot of the LSU defenders who did declare for the draft. But man, Zy Alexander is just going to be a guy you put him in a quarters, heavy scheme, probably like you may have him play the 2 on like a cover 6 or cover 9, heavy scheme, which you don't see a lot. Cover 3, this is a guy that you could totally see in like Carolina or like that like Fangio defense of the Fangio disciples, and you just have him sit in like a cover 3, like deep third on like the left or right side. And he's just going to call his hell out there because he is just that great in zone coverage. I have a 3rd round grade on him, and I could totally see that rising up to like that like 2nd to like 3rd round grade area, kind of where they have like Emeka Egbuka or like Jaden Higgins. So this is a guy I really, really did like his tape, but just the athletic ability and like the ceiling is not there. Just a low floor player and probably a cornerback 2. At best, this is probably not a guy I'm comfortable with just having him play on an island as a CB1, which is okay. You're not going to necessarily be looking for that when you're taking a cornerback in like the 2nd or 3rd round. You're not going to be looking for that corner 1 potential. And that's okay. Zy Alexander's, you're going to get what you see on tape, and he has good ball production to match it up. And whatever he does at his bowl game, he's going to tear it up as well. So I really like Zy.
So how would you rate his tackling ability?
It's spotty for sure. I don't necessarily like love it, but I'm not going to like crucify a DB that's not playing in the slot or the nickel for not being able to tackle the best, because you're on the boundary, and a lot of the time those guys don't want to tackle in the first place. And Zy Alexander does want to tackle. It's just spotty technique every now and again. So not terrible. Okay. Not going to knock him too bad for it, but.
So, like, for example, like if a defensive back doesn't tackle, Buffalo takes him off the board. Like Buffalo, even though they play primarily like cover 3, like you were saying,
yeah.
It sounds like from a coverage standpoint, he sounds like he would fit the McDermott-Babbage scheme. But Buffalo needs corners to tackle. But that's not to say Buffalo's corners are doing a good job at tackling this year. I think that's going to be our Achilles heel in the playoffs. So, okay. Next guy, Major Burns. So Noah, you want to cover Major Burns?
Yeah, so Major Burns, he has really good height, not such great size. I didn't know he was that small. I didn't have him listed that small, but that is
well, no, you always verify, because like most of my measurements come off of ESPN.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like, I mean, I'm not double and triple checking the heights and weights when I make the graphic.
I have him a little closer to 200, but I don't have anything verified either. But honestly, I didn't think the size was a huge issue for them. I thought he had pretty good size and physical traits to match with that multi-role skill set that LSU uses him in. That Tigers defense uses him as like that Swiss Army knife type of player. He plays like free safety, strong safety, slot corner, linebacker, edge rusher, basically everything for that Tigers defense. But his physical traits allow him to do it. This is a player that flies around the field as a run defender and coverage player that is constantly playing just with his hair on fire and a violent mindset to match that high effort, high energy play style that he plays with. And I think defensive coordinators are going to love that. He's a pretty consistent run defender. He has a knack for anchoring down in gaps with a low stout base, establishing with the violent hands to take on climbing blockers, with the capacity to finish these plays as well, being an aggressive but sound tackler mostly. And while I don't think he's an adept coverage defender by any means, he has smooth zone drops, and he has an athletic profile, which allows him to be an athlete in coverage at least. And he can make plays with the ball in the air, but he needs to grow in that area for sure, because the biggest questions Burns will have to answer will just be the lack of coverage instincts that leave him a step behind pass catchers routinely. And while he's a good run defender for his size, that makes him a versatile tool. He's not particularly like adept at it. He's not better than your average linebacker, and with lacking coverage positives, I think teams may be lower on him overall. But I personally like the skill set he offers. I think he's solid enough in run with the potential to grow in coverage that you could take him mid to late day 3 and like the versatility that he has. And I don't know, I thought he was a fun player. I just really like the energy that he plays with and the violence.
Cool. Cole, do you have any measurements of Major Burns?
I do have him closer to like 200, like 190.
Got it. So it's very possible ESPN might have his high school weight.
Oh, right?
Yeah. I noticed that a lot. That like when I'm going to build all the graphics, like it almost looks like would a player actually ever be 160 pounds? Well, that was maybe what they were when they graduated high school. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because I watched him. I don't think Oh, you can go, Cole.
No, you got to know. This is your player.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it. No, when I watched him, I was like 178. There's no way, because he honestly plays pretty well as a run defender. For I didn't think his size was great, but 178, I would have been like really shocked. I'd have been like, we got to get this guy up on some weight, and he got to play in the box a little more, because he's already very efficient at 178.
Yeah. So Shavon Revel, I'm assuming he's going to the bowl game so he could do some interviews.
Yeah,
but
probably.
he's not ready to play, is he?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So Cole, was this one of yours or was this one of Noah's?
This is one of mine, but I'm sure Noah's watched him. So
both of you guys can do it. And while you do that,
for
I'll double check Major Burns.
Revel is just freak athlete. This is your guy that this was what people thought Keionte Davis was going to be, which is really unfortunate because I really, really loved Keionte Davis. Like after like a second watch over the summer, I was like, man, this guy's the real deal. But Shavon Revel is, and then he had a bad season, but But Shavon Revel, you have the ACL kind of taken out of the equation. So pre-ACL, kind of go post after, but pre-ACL, this guy's a freak athlete. You can put him in any scheme, press man, off man. I really like him in off man specifically. But this is a guy you can play him in any. He has so many scheme versatility. Zone, man, off man, or press man, off man, anything. This is a guy you want to play on the outside. I can totally see him being taken in the first round. I don't have a first round grade on him just because of the ACL. So I don't know what the athleticism is going to drop off to. Mm-hmm. I doubt it drops off to anything crazy because Jonathan Brooks came back from his ACL and was fine. And unfortunately, he did tear it again, which is another concern for Revel. Especially if he does unfortunately get injured and it is that knee, that's a big red flag, which is just kind of why I'm like a little skeptical about it. I don't have any information on the medicals. Yeah. So I don't know what he's looking like, but like I'm not too concerned about the athleticism drop off. I do want to see what it's like. But physical, good hands, good coverage instincts, good ball production. This is kind of like everything you want to see in a corner. He was my CB2 at one point over Benjamin Morrison until he unfortunately did tear that ACL. Yeah. But again, like I said with the athletic profile, Jameson Williams tore his ACL and he just had 1,000 yards for the Lions and he was primarily that speedster. So you didn't really see an athletic drop off with him. Jonathan Brooks, same type of deal. So I doubt that happens with Shavon Revel. I kind of see that like rookie season Tariq Woolen in him a little bit. Not the recent Tariq Woolen, but rookie season. So this is a guy you really got to bet on the ceiling, and I don't know if I'd take him top 15 or even top 20. But if a team took a little dart throw at him, like the Chiefs or something, because they do need some outside corner help, I'd be totally fine with that pick. Even the Packers. So this is just a guy you really got to bet on, and you really got to know what's going on with the medicals and see where he goes from there for sure.
This dude is
Nohl, what do you have on Revel?
Well, I just want to say this dude's a Packers dream. The size, speed, and length profile, the Packers would absolutely adore this pick. But if he is the same athlete that he showed at ECU after the torn ACL, he's a top 32 player for me with no doubt in my mind. He is a just very consistent player. I rarely ever see him get beat. Maybe a little bit, like he just needs to shore up like pad level, maybe a little bit, some eye discipline issues, but nothing too serious at all. He's a freak athlete before that ACL tear. If he's the same athlete that he is after, like Cole was saying, that he probably will be. If he even has a drop off, it'll probably be very minimal. Guys usually don't tear their ACLs and then come back and they're significantly worse nowadays. So I assume he's going to be about the same athlete he is. He should be a top 32 pick. I think he's extremely scheme versatile. I like him in press man, off man, zone, really anywhere in a secondary. I obviously playing boundary, though, just because he has great size, speed, and length.
Okay, so a couple things, and I see that like Ryan has chimed in. What was it? CB5 for Revel. So I think one of the issues we're going to see in the first round, and I liked how I think, Cole, you called out Revel to Kansas City at the back of round one.
Yeah.
The team that takes Revel is going to have a specific DNA, and that's the GM knows what they're doing and has job security.
Yeah.
To me, if you're a Ryan Poles and you need a corner, but wow, like for Chicago with the GM on the hot seat to take an injured corner, whether that be Johnson, Morrison, or Revel, to me, that's a really risky pick. because they're going to need him to play immediately. Whereas Kansas City will always have other choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. The same thing. Buffalo will have other choices. I can see him going to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The GM is safe. Whereas if this is like, if you're a new GM, if you're like, say, the GM at Tennessee, and I realize he's not going to go number 1 overall, but let's say Tennessee trades back, the new GM still isn't going to draft. You don't want your first draft pick to be sunk by an injury.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not the way that you want to start your legacy, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain characteristic for the GM that selects Revel in round 1. And I love the Green Bay call out because Green Bay, their GMs have ultimate job security, right? Because they don't actually have an owner.
This, I think his floor is, 13, maybe. If Chris Ballard's feeling really, really happy about his job security, this is honestly a Juju Benz clone, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, Kansas State kid.
Yeah. This is like an RAS guy. If he's not going to be able to test, but like if he was, this is going to be an RAS team. And so I think his floor is Indianapolis, I think his ceiling is Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And I think that his floor is probably like
pick 32.
Yeah.
Whoever it is.
I'd say, but if we want to get into the specifics, I'd probably say the Packers because Brian Gutekunst is not worrying about his job security anytime soon.
Yeah.
So Jordan Oladukin was not one of the players that either of you identified to me to include with the podcast. Do either of you have anything on him?
No, I didn't watch him yet.
I didn't watch him, no.
Okay. Hey, Ryan, drop into the chat why these guys should watch him.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin Walley from Minnesota.
Yeah, Justin Walley is a player that I'm honestly quite high on. I have a 3rd round grade on him, a 3rd to a 4th, but I think it'll be a 3rd for sure after Shrine. But he's an extremely high IQ defender with clear instincts that show on tape. This guy has 7 interceptions in his college career, and while he doesn't possess great physical traits, he's an anticipatory defender. He breaks on receivers' routes while they're breaking, and he's capable of undercutting them to create turnovers routinely. And he also adds that physical presence to a secondary. He has a really good punch off the line of scrimmage and press, and he has a consistent ability to break up passes at the catch point with like accurate and violent hands. I do think that he has a tendency to get a bit grabby throughout the route, which could lead to penalties, but I don't think it's like a glaring issue that you're going to put on his profile. Just shore it up a little bit and he'll be fine. But besides that, Walley is a super high floor prospect. I think that he's scheme versatile from my evaluation. He played a variety of coverage shells with proficiency at every single one of them, and he's a very capable man corner that could stay in phase with nuanced receivers. I just think the biggest knock on Walley is going to be that he's an average athlete, and it does get him in trouble against these faster and quicker receivers. And I think at Shrine, he's going to have to show that his like somewhat rigid transitions won't hurt his ability to stay in phase with these quicker, more twitched up receivers, as his tape displays like that lack of fluidity to open his hips and turn and run with deficient recovery traits. Because again, he's only an average athlete. I still do have a 3rd round grade on Walley because I really like the floor that he offers. I don't know if he'll ever be a high end starter at the next level, but a capable one is certainly within reach for him.
And you have Walley as a corner, correct, Noah?
I do, yes.
Do you have him as slot, boundary, or both?
I think that he could play boundary. I don't know if he's the athlete to play in the slot, but I know that he's a little undersized, but I mean, I think he played fine in off man or even press in the reps that I did see of him. I didn't see anything that made me think that he was anything like that he would have deficiencies in that. And his instincts are insane.
Okay.
Like he has really good instincts.
So Ryan is recommending that we go back and we watch Jordan Oladukin.
Mm-hmm. That's the Bowling Green guy, right?
Yeah, it is.
I didn't have any film from Bowling Green. I wanted to watch him.
I have one game, so like I don't want to like go to broadcast for corners, but I might have to. But
hey Ryan, drop in the chat how much film you have, and if there's a way that we can share film, let us know, because we have a group chat where people are sharing film, but Ryan, I don't think you're in our group chat. So, yeah, that help would be appreciated, Ryan.
Kind of what Noah said about Justin Walley. I do think he's kind of a slot corner, but not like a true slot. There's a guy you bring in like a dime package on like 3rd and long. Kind of just let him play towards like the outside. Like you let him press up on the slot corner because, or this is a scheme specific. Like you bring him in to play the slot when you're getting a power slot wide receiver. Because I don't think he doesn't get kind of like thrown in a locker against bigger receivers. You don't like for his size. I'd kind of surprised by it honestly. 5'11", he doesn't have that long of arms. He's probably around like that, like 195-ish. I have him a little bit heavier than 190, but I'd prefer to have him like this is a guy you bring in like round 4, in my opinion, and he kind of reminds me of Chow Smith-Wade a little bit.
Yeah, good call out.
Just a guy that you can let play in like the dime, like maybe you bring him in the nickel, maybe on passing downs to guard like those big slot receivers, like how Keon Coleman should be used, Buffalo. But that's kind of where I am with Walley. I don't have like a firm grade on him. I've watched like 2.5 games. Yeah. But kind of from what I've seen from those games and watching, I think his teammate Ethan Robinson, maybe.
Is that the other boundary corner?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, he flashed a little bit on tape for me. I didn't watch him, though.
Yeah, I watched him. I have a day 3 on him, but Walley flashed a lot on when I was watching them, the 2 games that I watched of him.
I watched 3 games of Walley, and honestly, I'm blanking on the game that I watched. His worst reps, like one of them, he's like bailing back in like a cover 3, and the receiver just like throws him by. It should have been clear offensive pass interference. And instead, it's like a 45-yard catch.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God. Like his reps that he loses, they're few and far between, and they're not even like bad losses most of the time. I just feel like he's an extremely consistent player, and I just really liked what he brought to the table, especially like the coverage instincts. I loved. Like a guy that's an average athlete having being able to like undercut routes like that that will make you like, a starter at the next level. Like you can be able to play.
Okay. Fentrell Cypress from Florida State.
So this is like my like 3rd tier. Like this is like Zay Alexander in like day 3. This is a quarter. Like you have to play him in quarters. He's not a great athlete.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't prepare that in my notes about his ball production, but I'm not quite sure on that. I just never looked it up. I don't think it's that crazy.
I'll look it up for you.
Check. But this is like he's an okay athlete. He's a good tackler. I'll give him that. He's physical and he does tackle very, very well. But you put him in quarters, and I don't think you really have a problem with him coming in as a depth corner at all. I really like what he offers in the run game. He's physical and he does kind of ankle bite a little bit, but like he's 190.
Yeah.
And it's like a slim 190. Like probably not even 190 if I'm being honest. But this is a guy that I really do like him kind of like on the outside. You want to throw an RPO at him, he's going to break on that RPO and make the tackle in the flat. Again, quarters heavy, maybe cover 3. Maybe sort of, kind of, not really, but he offers good zone capabilities. I question about the press man. Because his technique's not all the way there in press man for sure. Off man again, maybe, but this is like a day 3 guy. Like I have like a 6th on Cypress, which I was a little higher over the summer, and I just wasn't necessarily blown away by his 2024 tape, which is okay. But this is a guy that can come in as a depth player, and I can for sure see him carving out a role on special teams, kind of just running down the field and making tackles before the 30-yard line. So,
yeah. Oh, he had 3 pass breakups this year. That's what PFF has in charted that at least.
Yeah, so like not crazy.
No, nothing crazy.
So Noah, is Frazier from UTSAU?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so Frazier from UTSA, this is a skyscraping boundary corner, excuse me. He's 6'3", 185 pounds, and he is a ball hawk. He's a really instinctual player. He's got 6 interceptions and 6 pass breakups on the year, I believe. And he's got pretty capable athleticism to pair alongside that freakish frame that he has. And he's honestly a pretty impressive linear athlete. He's got the speed to stay in phase in man coverage and the speed to also recover if need be down the sideline, even on these faster vertical speed threats, making him just an absolute nuisance on the perimeter with his size and speed profile. But it's not even just that. He actually has like somewhat consistent press man technique. He just needs to shore it up a little bit, but honestly, it's not a ton, and he's farther along than you would think for a day 3 player like this. And with his length, he has the potential to grow into a player capable of being able to shut down opposing teams' best outside receiver, which is just smothering outside press coverage. Because again, he's 6'3", 185 pounds. But the biggest question with Frazier is his ability to redirect and just overall twitch in general, as his transitions just kind of lack fluidity, and it causes him to lose positioning on receivers consistently. And he has numerous reps that just show inconsistent footwork and foot speed to trigger down on reps. I just don't think he's very like twitchy or like twitched up or anything like that. He's not very bursty. It's a player that I have a 5th round grade on because I love the size, I love the length, I love the speed, but this is a day 3 project pick. You're not expecting him to start year 1, obviously, but if he does pan out, you'll look like a genius of a GM picking him late day 3.
Cool. And Cole, Mello Dotson from Kansas.
So I really like Mello Dotson. I was watching, so it's kind of funny story here. I just never looked up the number for Kobe Bryant when I was watching his film over summer scouting, and I was actually watching Mello Dotson, and I was like, man, this guy is the real deal. And then not being Kobe Bryant. So in my head, I was like, I don't know who this number 3 kid is, but he looks like a ball player. So then I go back and I watched Kansas and Kansas State film like pretty much side and side. So after I watched Jacob Parrish, I was right on to Mello Dotson, and he was everything that I saw over the summer and more. He really developed as a player. He can undercut almost any route, shallow crossers. He's a really good athlete, and he does have that like Kobe Bryant like lanky build, but he's filled out a little bit more than Kobe Bryant is by a good amount. But he still is lanky, and the physicality is not all the way there just because of his size and his weight. But mirroring capabilities are awesome. This is a guy I would love an off man. Don't know about press man just because of the weight and kind of his hands are a little bit wonky at times. He can get wide on his jam, which it's coachable, but I don't know how much weight you're going to be able to add on a 6'1" kind of good athlete of a corner without taking away his best ability, which is being able to move well. So I don't really like him in a press man type of role, but you put him in quarters, like I said, a lot of these guys are zone heavy, but I really like his off man ability. Just undercut routes, kind of you play him on an outside shade of a corner on the boundary or of a wide receiver on the boundary, and he runs an end breaking route. It's probably gonna be broken up by Mello Dotson. It's just the way he is. He has long arms. He gets his hands in there. He's really feisty. With those types of reps where there's a rep against, it might have been Kansas State, where there was a dig route and Mello Dotson took it all the way down the field or all the way over, like it was like a 20-yard dig, and Mello Dotson got there and broke it up. And it was a pretty good ball, but Mello Dotson's ball skills are really, really nice. So this is a guy I could totally see going. I have a 3rd round grade on him, but I could totally see him going a little bit higher than most people would expect. But this guy that doesn't have a lot of media hype right now, which is really a shame because he is a really damn good player. Overall, this is a guy, I do like the Marshawn Lattimore kind of shout, but he kind of reminds me of that, like, I'm blanking, the other Saints corner, not Paulson Adebo, Alontae Taylor. He reminds me of Alontae Taylor a good amount with that length and kind of that like size and off-man ability. So that's kind of where I have Mello Dotson. I could totally see him rising up to like, again, that 2nd or third round area type grade. So I really do like him a lot, and that's really all I have on him.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm noticing about some of the corners that we covered today, they seem to be closer to prototype size than a lot of the guys that might be rated ahead of them. Like when we were doing wide receivers and corners with Bill, there seemed to be more corners that were closer to the size of Kobe Bryant than the size of Mello Dotson, right? So what a prototypical corner is about 6'1" or 6'2", 190, 195. That's
I like mine.
I'm in that range.
Yeah, I'm more of a little bit shorter but longer arms, just because I think that the fluidity is a little bit more there. So like that 5'11" to 6'1" area, and the 195 to 200. It's like my sweet spot. So that's kind of where I am, and that's a big part of the reason why I do like Mello Dotson as much as I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Nohl.
Oh, my evaluation was like perfectly in line with Cole's for Mello Dotson. I also have a 3rd-round grade on him. I just want to like vouch for that. He's a sudden mover. That start-stop ability is insane, and he is extremely twitched up. Like everything that you said, I don't want to reiterate it all, but yeah, like I have the exact same evaluation as you. This is a player that's going to go pretty high. I have him way higher on my board than Kobe Bryant. Personally, and I do like him way better in off man. I like how you said that he does kind of get bullied off the line of scrimmage and press. I did see that in tape as well, just because he is kind of a lighter player. But I mean, his feet are good, and he is twitched
right feet. Yeah,
well, yeah. So I really like your evaluation. I like how you said all that there. I really agree with everything you said, honestly.
Cool. So why don't we pause here for a second for a commercial? Cole, do you want to tell everybody, kind of introduce yourself, tell them who you are, how they can find your content?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at all_Colp_NFL. I have on the docket about 200 more players to evaluate out of 200. So I'm evaluating players about 4 to 5 a day, just kind of posting them on there. You can comment your thoughts. I post my big boards, my mock drafts. That's pretty much all you really see from me. I get a little bit into like the schematics every now and again, but overall, I love evaluating. I love scouting players out. So all you really see from me on there.
Cool. Noah, how about you?
Yeah, you can find all my stuff on Twitter as well. All uppercase NTB_43. Just same thing as Cole said. Just post daily draft content on there. Just the guys that I evaluate day to day. That's really where it all goes as of now. Just like scouting, honestly.
Cool. So I want to give a shout out. So in the chat, Bill Sparks at Sparks Scouting. Ryan Sparks, not related to Bill. I don't know Ryan's specific Twitter handle, but you'll see Ryan on a podcast once in a while, and he's always active in our chats. And then we have Mike, who's Path to the Jags. And you'll see Mike, I believe, podcasting on Tuesdays. So give those guys a follow. Give the channel a follow at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. It is the same channel on Twitter and YouTube. And we have daily content. So this is the first of 2 podcasts today. So we're covering some Hula and Shrine Bowl DBs. Next week, Noah and Cole said they're going to be bringing a linebacker big board. So, there's never enough linebacker podcasts. Never enough. So we will, they're going to go into their boards and we'll do, any linebacker that's round 5 or better. We'll just kind of run down their boards. And later on today, we have quarterbacks week, which will be the top 5 quarterbacks. And actually Bill Sparks is going to be one of the 3 people discussing quarterbacks with Newt and Owen. And that begins at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is about 70 minutes from now. So we appreciate like, follow, subscribe, turn on notifications on YouTube for daily draft content. Okay, so quarterback McWilliams. So this is an interesting story because he was on either the Hula or Shrine Bowl list. Then he accepted a Senior Bowl invite. So we're going to talk about McWilliams now. Noah, is this you?
Yeah, this is me. Yeah, so McWilliams, this is a player, he spent 4 years at UAB before transferring to UCF for his 5th year, and this is a player that has some real comfortability in zone from my evaluation, and he just has a knack for breaking up passes at the catch point. He only had 1 pass pickup this season, obviously, but he had 22 over his 3 years of play at UAB. So this guy obviously understands how to get physical at the catch point and break passes up. So it's a clear positive for me. But that physicality also leaks into the run game as well, where I think this is a player that you should look at for a potential move to slot because he is 5'10", 185, so he is a little small for the position. His length isn't great, but he does have that competitive nature as well. And the smaller stature, obviously, just probably better suited for the slot. However, he does primarily play outside for the UCF Knights, and that's honestly because He's just not a great athlete, I don't think. I'm not super high on his movement skills to stay latched with those twitchier receivers on the outside, so I'm kind of worried about it in the slot as well because his tape is just littered with man coverage losses. He just kind of struggles to open his hips to turn and run, and his long speed is lacking, which causes him to get stacked on the sideline a pretty decent amount, and he really doesn't have the recoverability traits that like you would want or desirable. Like I think that his size should get him moved to the slot, but I'm not entirely confident in his movement skills to stay latched in man coverage against slot receivers that are a little faster and twitchier. For me, he profiles as a scheme dependent zone corner with some questionable inside outside versatility, but overall has some pretty good feel for cover 2 and 3. Played a lot for UCF. And he's a guy that you could take like as a depth piece in late day 3, and I think he'll be a good special teamer for you. I'm just not entirely confident in his like man coverage ability. I just don't feel like he keeps a tight cushion, and he's not like routinely in positioning. He's just a player that routinely makes mistakes and is very inconsistent at a position where you can't be inconsistent at.
Cool. Nohl Williams from California. Cole.
Oh no.
So you were here for the Kareem Reed bit last week. You're going to get the exact same thing with Nohl Williams. Nohl Williams, I'm going to start by saying what I always say when I love a player this much. Nohl Williams is the fucking man. He's 100% bigger than 6 foot. I have him at like 6, closer to 6'1", and a little bit bigger than 180, so like 190.
Yeah.
This is a guy led the FBS in interceptions at a certain point, and I'm pretty sure he did all season. He had like 7 or 8, an insane number. Ball hawk, but not in the way you would expect. He's not a flashy athlete at all. This is a physical, in your face, fuck you, press man corner. You get him up in your face mask, and he's gonna run you into the dirt. You put him in off man. You kind of get him like an even like inside leverage, and he's gonna fry you. There's nothing you can do about it because he is smarter than you. He's stronger than you. He's more physical than you, and he knows how to play football probably better than you do. He gave Cam Ward problems. He gave multiple other quarterbacks and wide receivers problems. His feet aren't that fast. His movement skills aren't that fast. He's not the best athlete out there, but he knows how to play the position the right way. He might end up being my cornerback 3. Just being honest with you. And that's depending on if I even grade Travis Hunter as a cornerback and not an athlete. Because Nohl Williams has arguably the best technique in the class. In off man and press man, you can put him in quarters, and I'm sure he'll be fine because he is smarter than half the cornerbacks I've graded. His instincts are insane. His IQ is insane. He offers through the roof length. He has long arms. He will get up in your grill. He will run his mouth. He will run you to the dirt, and he doesn't give 2 shits about it. This should have been a Senior Bowl guy. I love Jim Nagy. I love what the Senior Bowl does. This is a guy that I believe got snubbed from the Senior Bowl and should have been there. This would have been probably one of the top corners there. And I just want to say that Nohl Williams, if he goes in the first round in April after he gets a bunch of hype I think he is at the Shrine. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nice.
Yeah, if he's gonna get draft hype at the Shrine, and you're gonna wonder who the hell he is. You're gonna click on, watch a few clips, and you're gonna be like, damn, this is a great player. This is a guy, if he goes round 1, I'm probably going to be jumping up and down, running around my living room when I'm watching the draft. Because he deserves to go round 1. Ball skills, physicality. He has everything you want outside of that athletic profile. But at this point, who gives a shit? Because Will Johnson doesn't have that athletic profile either. Nohl Williams is just what you should want if you're a GM as a corner. He's going to make a GM look like the smartest motherfucker in the entire room. Mm-hmm. When he comes out, and he ends up being a cornerback 1, because this is L'Jarius Sneed reincarnated as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Not the best athlete, but you get him in your face and press man and off man. You can have him run quarters if you want. Shit, have him play strong safety. I don't really give a fuck because he is probably one of the top 5 DBs in this class, and I'll stand on this. I will do anything I can to make sure. Bang!
Yeah.
He's going to fuck up your favorite wide receiver of the Senior Bowl. Stamp that, click that. I don't care. That's on him. He's going to dominate the Super Bowl.
No way. He deserves that invite.
So, Cole, it's funny that you mentioned L'Jarius Sneed, right? Because when you were giving your report, I was thinking, well, that's a Steve Spagnuolo corner.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Right? Like, he needs to, right? Because he's likely going to go to a team that blitzes a lot and has a lot of pressure looks, right? That plays man-to-man behind it.
Yeah, this is a Anthony Weaver, whoever was the defensive coordinator like 2 years ago in Miami, specifically the game where they ran like cover zero like 27 times against the Ravens, the Robert Hunt touchdown game. You put Nohl Williams in a situation like that, you won't have any problems about him letting up a damn catch. He's that good.
So, Cole, can you identify some teams that would be picking in round one that you think he would be a scheme fit for?
So, just based off scheme, not where I think they would go. Detroit is one. They had Terry and Arnold playing like 200-plus man snaps this year. So, there you go.
Great.
Obviously, Kansas City's number 2. I'd say Green Bay. Green Bay is a good spot for him as well. You put him in that blitz heavy type of defense that I forget his name, but the Boston College head coach, who's now the DC in Green Bay, is that now. I like him in Baltimore as well. Those are like a quick 4 or 5, just where I would love to see him go. Whether it's round 1, round 2.
Do you think he meets the athletic thresholds that Green Bay tends to draft in their corners? Because, I mean, there's a couple of draft professors who are Green Bay fans, and when I mocked a couple guys to Green Bay, they're like, no. Like, everybody else says he's going in round 1, but he says he won't be a round 1 pick to Green Bay. So.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, I don't think –
athlete at best, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, so compare, contrast Nohl Williams to Maxwell Hairston.
Maxwell Harrison's more of a twitchy athlete than a coverage guy. Even though I like Maxwell Harrison's coverage instincts, and I have a second-round grade on Maxwell Harrison, but you're going to get a little bit more length and a little bit more physicality, which isn't like a ton because Maxwell Harrison's physical in his own right. But I'm really going to be looking at that length, and I'm really looking at that ball production because you're not going to get that with. You'd be surprised on how he got his interceptions because you think, well, he's not that athletic. Closely, he's not that athletic. Well, how is he getting 8 interceptions on the year? And a lot of this did come from this undercut routes and jumping hitches and jumping digs, and it really did shock me kind of watching him get in and out of breaks because it's not the cleanest, but his technique's just so good and he's so smart that he makes it work. And I think that any team that picks him in the first round of those 4 or 5 will be getting a good player and a CB1 caliber player.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked is Brian Maffey, one of the draft professors. You'll see him doing running backs on Saturday morning this week. Mm-hmm. Brian said, even though Hairston doesn't have a first-round grade, he's more likely to be a corner that the Packers target just because of all the athletic thresholds that Green Bay has for corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they draft.
Yep. So, okay. And I'm thinking that was the last player, but yep, that was the last player. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate everybody that's been here with us for the last hour. I've seen a lot of familiar names in the chat. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Bill. Please continue to follow the channel. We actually have another podcast coming at you in 60 minutes for Quarterbacks Week. So on behalf of Cole, Noah, myself, everybody at the Draft Professor, thank you for watching, and we'll see you at a podcast again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, brought to you by the Draft Professor. Please follow the Draft Professor on YouTube, X, and Twitter at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. If you have a moment, try using some of the Draft Professor mock draft functionality including a first-round challenge, a second-round challenge, rank players, and draft a team. Thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on our daily draft podcast tomorrow.